Attention, podcast listeners! The Juice here. You know, I never put much stock in the whole podcasting thing, truth be told. I thought YouTube would put the whole kibosh on non-video entertainment and those pesky little audio shows would go the way of the dodo. But I learned to never underestimate an earworm. Or any worm, for that matter. Look out, sandworm right behind you! Gotcha. I dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair. Right, well, got a script here. Let's see. I got a new movie out. Go see it. Now! What else? The Tunes are coming back in a big way. In 2028. Good for them. Yeah, support the Animation Guild and the VO actors. And stay the hell away from AI. Ugh, those freaky images just creep me out. Oh, come here. Yeah, it's the eyes. They lack soul or something. Hollywood wants you to believe they can act too. Yeah, well, if I know anything, you give them all you got and they still won't give you a call back for 36 damn years! That's just my experience. Let's see what else. I'm not saying that, but how's this for a sound that bites? It's showtime.
Are you ready, eager young space cadet?
Meep, meep. I saw a pussy cat.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Hello and welcome to Of Course You Realize This Means Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Graves, and it's been a while. I've been busy. I've had a baby in the off time, and obviously so much has been happening with Looney Tunes that I had to jump back on when I had free time, and I technically still don't have free time. I'm just kind of implementing this into the nourishing and the growth of a newborn baby into this world. So that's how much I love Looney Tunes. I had to jump on and I had to bring on with me a super fan in his own right, but somebody I was so fortunate enough to send over to Comic-Con in the height of everything going on in San Diego. It is an honor to have back on the podcast, Manny, the Toonie Tinner. Welcome back to the show. And how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I mean, I don't have a baby at the moment. I have a dog, if that counts, and obviously you have your own trials and travails of having a dog, but
Sure,
it's always good to talk Looney Tunes. It's great to be back. I sound a little off today for people who probably heard me the last time because starting to lose my voice a bit yesterday, or 2 days ago, but I'm making a full recovery so I could yak about cartoons and do some more singing and who knows what.
Well, it's an honor to have you again, and I cannot wait to dive into all of the news that's been happening. And as you heard, there's big news around 2028 now with Looney Tunes being resurrected into the theatrical space. We'll get into it. We'll figure out what is going on with that. But first, if you are new here, thank you for listening. I urge you to subscribe and check out all of the social media platforms that we have with This Means Podcast. We have Instagram and Fan Art Fridays. We have a Twitter account, and for however long Twitter is still around, we're everywhere that Looney Tunes is being talked about. So go check us out, follow and subscribe, and be sure to check in on our YouTube channel because sometimes we'll have new and exclusive interviews over there with cast and crew behind these voices, behind the artistry that is animation and Warner Brothers animation specifically. So go check that out. So Manny, starting off, let's rewind back to July. You went out to Comic-Con and you got some really cool artwork. You got to talk to some of the cast of the METV lineup, which METV Toons is a new broadcasting channel where they are playing nonstop 24/7 cartoons. That is right up our alley. And if you have it in your area, I highly recommend it. You know, they're playing some of the newly restored Mask cartoons from the 90s. They also have Beetlejuice on there, which we're going to talk about. And it runs the gamut of Hanna-Barbera, Tom and Jerry, MGM, Fleischer cartoon. Are there Fleischer cartoons on there?
The last time I checked, I think they might have had some Betty Boop cartoons,
Yeah,
kind of
Betty
like the
Boop.
ones in the
Yeah.
public domain, but and obviously the Popeye cartoons that were originally from Fleischer that now Warner owns, and I love Popeye's one of my favorite theatrical characters. So,
So
and
good.
hopefully the more the merrier down the road. I mean, seeing this channel, I haven't had the opportunity to see it too much because A, life, and B, where I'm situated at. I mean, METV Toons is available where I live. I live in New Jersey, but I guess where I'm at, like the satellite is a little. I don't get the best signal all the time, and like I'm watching. I was like, yeah, this is phenomenal and great, and then it starts cutting out. And I mean, hopefully down the road, I know that Neil Saban did an interview, I believe, with Black Nerd Andre. Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
big fan, and saying
Friend of
that
the podcast.
yep, and that if there was a streaming version down the road, it's not going to be necessarily the same as the broadcast version. But at the same time, I mean, you and I are old enough to back in our day that we remember sitting in front of the TV as kids in the '90s, putting on ABC or Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network in its heyday, and just
Yeah.
like 1 minute you would see a Tex Avery MGM short, you would see something from Hanna Barbera, you would see obviously Bugs and Daffy and the rest of the crew and all that, and it's so cool to have that the return, but at the same time it's free. I mean, not a lot of people realize now with the age of streaming and cable pretty much at a death knell that it's just like literally go to Best Buy, spend $30, get the receiver, and for people who are in their, let's say, late 20s and older, it's just a huge nostalgia rush. Not that nothing is, we don't know anything about nostalgia in this day and age. It's a completely foreign
Nothing.
concept.
Yes.
None at all. But
It's
but it
not a
was
drug that they pump into our veins every 10 minutes.
caffeine, we don't need that stuff, and other things I don't want to talk about here. We don't need all that. Well, I mean, I need a ton of caffeine to function, but that's besides the point.
Daily.
Daily.
But yeah, no, MeTV Tunes is out there. Look up your local provider and see if it's in your area. I know that they are still, doing a rollout, so just check on that. But speaking of rollouts, let's just get into some Looney Tunes news. Unless you want to talk about the artwork that you got from Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, so I got a few things. I got trying to remember it now. I bought these really really neat prints of various episodes of The Simpsons. I'm a huge Simpsons fan, especially the Golden Age, and I got those. I got actually I have it right here. I mean, of course, this is an audio podcast, and I'm showing a picture because I'm that bright. But I got I went to the
Oh,
Chuck
nice.
Jones Gallery in
The
San
Baseball
Diego.
Bugs lobby card.
My top 10, one of my absolute favorite shorts of all time, Baseball Bugs.
Oh! Yeah, the gas house gorillas are a bunch of dirty players. Why, I could lick them in a ball game with one hand tied behind my back, all by myself. Yeah, I'd get up there and wham! A homer! Wham! Another homer! Wham! 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 What? What's up, Dad?
And it's it's a reprint of the title card from back in the 40s. And I also got another great phenomenal short featuring my my favorite Looney Tune duo, I've said it a million times, Porky Pig and Daffy Duck in Robin Hood Daffy. So
It's
I
one
got
of
the
my
title
favorites.
card. Yep,
Absolutely.
phenomenal short.
With my trusty quarterstaff. Actually, it's a buck and a quarterstaff, but I'm not telling him that.
And I also got that I actually still need to pick it up. So at Comic-Con, they were selling a print of Bugs' Rogues Gallery. And I was like, I didn't want to spend too much money. That was a lie when I went to San Diego. Because this was actually the first time I've ever been to San Diego Comic-Con. It's the third time I've been to San Diego, and I love it. It's phenomenal. I stayed with a buddy of mine. If you're listening, hey, Frankie.
Shout out to Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie. Yeah. Good guy. Not as much of a nerd as we are, but, he's got his moments. And it was, Bugs' Rogues Gallery. And just it really intrigued me because, like, obviously Batman, you have all the his Rogues Gallery and Superman and other famous superheroes. But I'm like, with Bugs, it's like, he's the perennial hero, the winner, whatever. And then I started saying it's so cool to see like Bugs right in the middle of the print itself, and you got Gossamer and Elmer and Yosemite Sam and the evil scientist from Water Every Hair
My favorite.
and Beaky Buzzard and obviously Daffy, the Jones era Daffy, and just like
Sure.
surrounded by like 20 other villains from the classic shorts. I mean, Marvin Martian, Crusher, and I thought it was such a cool take on a print that I was like, I couldn't pass it up. So I got like a smaller canvas of it, and I actually they shipped it to New Jersey to one of their headquarters, which is north of where I live, and one of these days I have to go pick it up. But I mean, it was so cool to see that, like Bugs, yeah, he's a hero, but who are the quote unquote bad guys? Because there really isn't, I mean, these are comedy shorts. You don't really think of like, Batman with the Joker or, Spider-Man with the Green Goblin. It's like Bugs has his own set of villains. Oh, Taz as well. I forgot about
Was
him.
Pete Puma on that?
Was that?
Was Pete Puma on that as well?
Yeah, he was definitely in it. Oh,
Nice.
yeah, he was there. That was my best Pete Puma impression.
Hey, it's better than I can do.
Yeah. A whole lot of lumps, As I
That's
put
great.
honey in my tea, no lumps for me.
I saw the print on your Instagram and I just absolutely died. It's fantastic artwork, and I'm so glad that you were able to get that while you were there. And just to, be in that room where they're talking about the legacy of these characters. And obviously it was the week of Bugs's, celebration, his debut week, if you will, 84 years ago?
84.
Yeah, 84 years ago. Just right off the top of my head, that's how old that character is, and he lives rent free every day in our lives.
84 years and only one gray hair. And then obviously as I look at the two of us, it's like, yeah, we're younger than him and we have quite a few.
So true. So let's get into a quick political thing that's going on with the TAG, the Animation Guild, and voiceover artists. They are using their voices and voting for equal rights, whereas creatives are striving for, a livable income. And we support that. We here at the podcast support that fully. And we want everybody who is in this space to be able to live and, be productive in a way that is, creatively fulfilling to them, as well as earning them a living. And so there was a huge gathering in Burbank the same week as Comic-Con, and it garnered so much attention across all channels of animation, of, politics, of Hollywood. And I just hope that through the voting process, people are able to make their voices heard, and that they come to a new agreement that allows these wonderful, wonderful creative people to strive and live in Hollywood and continue to perform. I know Jim Soper is really outspoken about this. He's the guy who redid all of the Looney Tunes for Looney Tunes Cartoons, the HBO Max series. And also his redesigns are seen in the first ever full-length animated Looney Tunes feature, The Day the Earth Blew Up, which now has a distributor thanks to Catch Up Entertainment. They distributed the Robert Rodriguez movie Hypnosis or Hypnotica or
Hip hip hooray, hip hop.
The one with Ben Affleck. And
That one.
Yeah. But I think that is a good win, a huge win for domestic distribution. The film has been rolling out overseas currently. It's already been in Germany and Austria, and it's just making its rounds. And I cannot wait to see this with an audience. We do not have a release date, but keep it right here, because as soon as we do, it will be plastered all over my social medias, and I will be podcasting about it, and we will be rejoicing, because this is a once in a lifetime phenomena. Like a 94-year franchise finally has their first ever full-length animated feature. Like, unless it's with a basketball and Michael Jordan or LeBron James, where it's a live action hybrid, or, Looney Tunes Back in Action, which was, again, a live action hybrid, but a love letter to Chuck Jones and the Termite Terrace gang from Joe Dante. I'm so thrilled that we finally got to this moment, and I'm looking forward to it. Manny, are you looking forward to this movie, and what excites you about it?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head in terms of the theatrical experience. I mean, sadly, in general, I did not go to the movies often growing up, mainly for financial reasons. But my love of Looney Tunes obviously has been around my whole life, but I experienced it on television. Pretty much who remembers seeing Looney Tunes in the theater? Maybe somebody in their 60s or older. And I've had a few times seeing theatrical shorts on there, and it's just this whole different experience. It's a whole different vibe, and it would be great to see not only the original shorts but new material being produced in its original medium. And that's something that I go around telling people often, that they don't even realize it. The original Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies were produced for theatrical distribution. And it's kind of in the same vein of when I tell people, you go listen to a really solid recording of an album or a song or whatever it may be, but when you're in a concert, it's a completely different animal.
Oh yeah.
And the few times that I've seen, like I remember about 20 something years ago when I saw some widescreen cartoons in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, just feeling the vibe and the feeling of the audience and the laughter and this and that. Or even when I went to see Bugs Bunny the Symphony, I guess that counts, quote unquote, as a theatrical distribution. And it was a concert at the same time. So it was just like the cherry on top of
A
that
double whammy.
proverbial sun, a double whammy.
Yeah.
and just, hearing the laughter and the joy, and even some people getting choked up and teary. I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't tearing up at the end of What's Opera Doc, hearing the orchestra, finish off that piece of Wagner.
Well, what did you expect in an opera? A happy ending?
And it's going to be so cool to just finally get to experience these beloved characters in its quote unquote original form. And yeah, you mentioned it's almost, the first Looney Tunes short came out in 1930. And it's insane that it's taken this long to finally get a Looney Tune not only back in its original form, but in an even longer segment than, just a 7-minute theatrical short.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We got to thank the creative team behind Looney Tunes cartoons. And, it's driven by passion, it's driven by love. And we got to, as fans, support that. I know a lot of people out there really wanted to see Coyote versus Acme. And then this came along as far as, getting press and a release. But, if we support this, maybe we'll get that. The jury is still out on what is happening with Coyote versus Acme, so don't give up hope on that, and we won't either. We're just going to support all of the Looney Tunes goodness that comes our way. Now, there was a report in Puck News that Warner Brothers Discovery was considering Looney Tunes as a non-core asset, and that they were looking at reducing a debt load by offloading that franchise. Now, Looney Tunes without Warner Brothers seems crazy. It seems absolutely insane. It seems insane and crazy. And I, for one, am completely against separating the two. And I know that it is so bonkers to think that this first ever Looney Tunes movie is not being distributed by Warner Brothers. It is, having to go to a third party source. But, Warner Brothers Animation was still, behind it, and they funded it. So their name and their logo is still going to be attached. It will still be, under the brand label. So it will be a little bit less confusing as it rolls out. But one thing that would have been completely bizarre, and it was revealed in this Puck article, was that before the last acquisition of Warner Brothers, prior to Discovery, there was talks of Looney Tunes being sold to Disney. Now, if you think the Muppets are being poorly handled and mistreated, then just imagine what would have happened had Looney Tunes gone over there. They would have just, milked the archive stuff, but not given us any new content. And I don't know how that would have played out. I shun the idea. I do not like the idea of Disney owning Looney Tunes at all. And yeah, Manny, you heard this news. What did you think of this whole Disney acquiring Looney Tunes, and it was never an inked deal. It was just talked about, but just the fact that it came out of someone's mouth, it's icky.
I mean, Disney owns everything else under the sun, so why not have another thing? No, I think it would just be the ultimate slap in the face and an insult to just animation fans everywhere. Because, like you said, Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes have been, you know, connected since the very beginning. When Hugh Harman, Rudolph Ising, and Leon Schlesinger, they pretty much were subcontractors to Warner's, and then Warner's took over the Schlesinger studio in 1944. But yeah, it's their histories have been intertwined since the very beginning, and the whole Warner style, the whole Looney Tunes came from Tex Avery's desire to rebel against the Disney influence in the animation industry.
Yeah.
And when you think of beautiful, lush animation, everything's on ones and la di da and musicals, you think of Disney. But then when you think of everything else, the insanity, the fourth wall breaking, the pop culture references, the majority of that ties back
The
to
violence.
what the violence. I mean, when I look at anvils and I'm like, wait, people actually use this to do stuff instead of dropping on cats' heads. You know, it's pretty much a huge source of just the slapstick comedy that we enjoy for the past 70, 80, 90 years. It kind of reminds me, I'm going to go, I guess, a perfect example I could think of is, my fandom in wrestling. It was like, in the 90s, you had WCW competing against the WWF. WCW collapsed. Coincidentally, another company that was owned by Time Warner back in the day. And an ultimate insult, WWF came along and bought their former rival because WCW almost put WWF out of business. And then 2001, tables have turned, and WCW was sold and everything like that. And then it would just be a huge slap in the face if that were to happen. And just like I was saying before, just the complete difference in philosophies, the Disney style, the Warner style. It's so different from each other. I mean, obviously we had the great, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it was so cool seeing Daffy and Donald compete and Bugs and Mickey do it, but they were still separate. It was cool that they came to that collaboration when they were making the film, but the fact that Bugs Bunny's going to be walking around with Mickey ears, and it rubs me the wrong way, and it's kind of sad that somebody seriously floated that idea to begin with. I mean, it doesn't surprise me in terms of just the way executives think. You know what? Maybe I should tell that. I think the man who painted that, his name escapes me at the moment. Who painted the print that I bought?
Mm-hmm.
He should draw Bugs and the other Looney Tune characters, and the Rogues Gallery are different Warner executives. I think we should do that. Just feel free to cut me a slight check in the profit, and we'll go from there. Because I can't draw it.
Over time, he's definitely had some adversaries that were in the corporate office, but looking forward to a 2028 revitalization theatrically with the Looney Tunes, according to Bill Damaschke, who came over from DreamWorks Animation, and I think he's a proponent for the theatrical space. I mean, his filmography reads very theatrical to me. I think that his inclusion in this franchise could be vital, but I also feel like this announcement is coming on the heels of such a blow to the franchise after the vigor around Coyote versus Acme, and then that shelved situation, and Warner Brothers looking at a Max exclusive movie with The Day the Earth Blew Up, and then that getting a theatrical but not being fully represented theatrically by Warner Brothers. I think it's really weird to come out and say, oh no, we've got plans in the future. We just got to wait for that to unravel. It's like, okay, well, I'll see it when it happens. I'm hesitant to be supportive of anything right now because I need to see it in action. Because right now, so far, the Looney Tunes being in action is, relegated to 2003's Looney Tunes back in action. I need to see something more recent than that.
I mean, from the little tidbits that I've seen being posted online, it looks so cool. I just love how just the way it's drawn. It's too bad I don't speak German. I took it a year in college and I've sung in German, but like the little clips I've seen of I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing the name of the film in German, but like it's like that tease, and it's just like you have this opportunity, and yet you drop the ball. Well, not only with this one, but with like I said, Coyote versus Acme, and Bye Bye Bunny. There's another one that I'm thinking about. The musician in me is intrigued greatly by that one.
I was so
And
excited about that. Yeah.
oh my! And I saw a posting on Facebook a few days ago, but I forgot where the post came from. But it was talking about the films this year that in terms of theatrical distribution, like the box office and all that. And it said something that I think 25% of the highest of the overall grosser. I should have had this in front of me, just popped in my head, but like a huge chunk of the box office revenue of this year came from animated films.
Oh
And the
yeah,
biggest one,
absolutely.
is Inside Out 2 now being the highest grossing animated film of all time. And it's like
Right.
animation makes money. It it has generational appeal. Obviously, it has with parents, with kids, with teenagers. It covers all the bases. And obviously, if you do it well, you're going to be rewarded for it. But yet, going back to what we were saying before, it's like, oh well, I guess we're just going to shelve it, or talking again with the whole animators strike and everything, which I 100% fully support myself as a creative, not an animator, but as someone who is a musician, someone who would like to do voiceover one day. I totally get just the complete lack of respect that we get as creatives, and then just so many people, so many pencil pushers and everything, not realizing that you cannot get your streaming shows, you cannot get your TV shows, your films, your video games without the hard work of these animators and these designers and musicians and grips and lighting people and like we make what you enjoy. And we're 4 years removed from the huge outbreak from of 2020, and it was so interesting to see all the people saying, "Oh, thank God that I have Max, and thank God that I have Netflix, so I could binge my favorite show and rewatch, the same episode of my favorite sitcom over and over again." It's like that stuff didn't come out of nowhere. There
Yeah.
were people behind it, and then when it comes to, hey, like, I want to pay my rent, I want to pay my loans, I want to, obviously now, I want to take care of my child, and the big wigs are just like, you'll be fine with scraps. And it's just a complete. I was talking about it with one of my best friends 2 days ago after we saw Beetlejuice. It's our love of the craft is what gets us by, but at the same time, just continuing to be disrespected. It's a tough world to just be a creative in general, with that constant struggle of trying to get by, but yet your love pushes you through all the nonsense.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people back in 2020 were saying animation saved the film industry because they were unable to get movies in the theatrical space, and animation was done. They were able to get that out and also put that on the streaming networks. And yeah, I mean, it's a wild time. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm hoping for the best, and I'm really I'm keeping those creatives in my mind as I move forward. But also, as somebody who works in this industry tangentially, I'm rooting for the best. I just want to, give a quick shout out to Pete Brownguard and Alex Kerwan for really pushing the ball on The Day the Earth Blew Up and making sure that was a theatrical release, and that it got out to the masses, because it's going to be something to behold whenever it does make its debut in theatrical spaces. So yes, let's get into the topic at hand, which is Beetlejuice. This Tim Burton film came out of a long-awaited and in development hell process of scripts, of actor contracts of like going back and forth on will they, won't they do this movie. Kevin Smith has an entire set whenever he does improv or stand up. Whenever he talked about Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, that was talked about in the 90s. And, you know, part of me wishes we got that movie because the more Beetlejuice content, the better, I think. But this film, clearly there is a want for it because it was originally pitched to stream on Max, and uh, the it was basically down to Tim Burton, who was like, I'm not going to make a movie for Max. He wants to see the visual artistry on the big screen, which I don't blame him. And the producers felt that same way. The budget was cut from $147 million to $99 million in order to secure a theatrical window. And guess what? It has made over $264 million as of this weekend. So there is clearly a want and a love, a passion for this character, but also the reinvigoration of people flocking to see the animated series, which is phenomenal. If you go back and watch, I mean, the animated series is okay, but the outpouring of love is phenomenal because Tubi uploaded the entire series for free for us to watch, and there is a rumor going around that there's going to be a new animated series coming out next year. It is completely unbiased. It was completely unbased. I don't know where this is coming from, but somebody is out there spreading this rumor. We'll see if it happens. Right now, I'm just excited that we're getting more Beetlejuice content. Manny, what is your history with Beetlejuice? Like the first movie or the cartoon? And it's so funny, the cartoon is produced in Canada, so you'll hear Beetlejuice say sorry or about.
What's all this about?
Every now and then. Yeah, it just adds texture to it. It's like, okay, well, Beetlejuice animated is Canadian now. That's fine. But yeah, Manny, what is your history with Beetlejuice? And did you ever see him at the parks? I mean, he was introduced alongside Looney Tunes and alongside Ghostbusters at Universal. Like, mind-blowing stuff.
You had to say those two, Ghostbusters and Looney Tunes, two of my absolute favorite things in the world, as I'm wearing a Ghostbusters shirt while I'm recording this. So fun fact, the original Beetlejuice came out March 30th, 1988, 20 days after I was born.
Nice.
So I guess I have a pretty significant history. I mean, we were born in the same month, so... But I grew up with the cartoon. I saw mainly reruns, I believe on channel, I was going to say channel 5, but I'm like, the channel 5 could be any, well, Fox 5, the Fox affiliate here in
Sure.
the New York City area. I saw it there. And also reruns that I saw on Nickelodeon. Love the theme song. I didn't even know until a few years ago that there were like two different title sequences. The one where like the first shot is just like how that really grotesque face on Beetlejuice and like something crawling up his nose, and
the spider crawling up his nose. Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, but it's so cool, and I just love. Danny Elfman did the arrangement, if I'm not mistaken, for the theme song for the cartoon as well, which is kind of neat. And obviously, he did the music for both films.
And Tim Burton oversaw it as well.
And I saw that. Loved the cartoon as a kid. I rewatched some clips of it recently, and I'm like, it's all right, so another one of those things that, going back to stuff we saw as kids and as an adult, and some of it's really good and some of it's like, it's all right. But,
sure.
But I only saw small clips. I mean, if I I saw the whole series is available on DVD, physical media is the way to go, kids. I might pick it up just for the heck of it and put it on and just rewatch it. The original film, I saw it here and there growing up. I actually had it recorded on a VHS. Kids, ask your parents. But I had I think it was on a random broadcast on TV and obviously musically, just the Danny Elfman score is just absolutely incredible, and the needle drops obviously in particular, the very famous scene of Deo from Harry Belafonte, and I was
Harry Belafonte.
Oh yeah. I was actually, was it when he passed away last year? So like I saw it on my phone. I'm just like stopped what I was doing, and I had to put on the Banana Boat song in his honor.
Nice.
And it's so strange to think, like, I knew about the history of Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian and all that, and just how long it took. Like, literally my entire life has been Beetlejuice, waiting for the next film to come out. And I
Yeah.
did see it yesterday evening, and we're recording this on a Monday night. And I saw it last night or yesterday afternoon, I should say, with one of my best friends, and I really enjoyed it. I do have the original film on 4K, but I still haven't had a chance to rewatch it. But I've seen clips of it again. Obviously, like I said, the possession scene, and
Oh, yeah.
and it's great seeing the familiar face again. Catherine O'Hara and Winona Ryder were phenomenal once again. Jenna Ortega brings a lot of great stuff to the franchise.
Great new
And
energy.
yeah, and my God, Michael Keaton did not miss a beat. Like,
Nope.
he's like, I could literally, I spent today on YouTube just rewatching clips of him in the original film, and I'm like, man, he's hilarious. Like, I forgot how funny he is. And the same thing in this film. The only thing was that there was, and I like watching stuff with closed caption. There were some times that I was having a little difficulty hearing him because obviously he's 36 years older, and Beetlejuice always speaks in a gruff tone. But I did pre-order the 4K of the new film, so I look forward to
Nice.
watching it again. And it's also too with, like, just I'm thank goodness that Tim Burton stuck to his guns with not doing it on streaming. I mean, obviously he's being rewarded for it, but like seeing the majority of it being done in by the old way, with
Practical
practical
effects. Yeah.
effects, with
Yeah.
stop motion animation, like, and a part of me was thinking, I'm like, if a kid watches this, I mean, it was also a little gorier than the original one from. I was like, whoa, there were some parts I was like, whoa, like, I didn't expect it to take off, especially near the end. I was like, what the heck? Am I watching a real horror movie? But, like, a kid would watch and be like, I don't want to say that it looks fake, with because obviously we had, stop motion back in the day, and it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. But it's so cool that Burton went back to that, that aesthetic in this film, because it fits this world. It fits the Beetlejuice vibe. And it was pleasing to see something like that, not just a constant beating over your head, over reliance on CGI. And I mean, obviously the film is doing gangbusters, and we'll see if there's. I mean, they kind of hinted at it, but the possibility of doing Beetlejuice.
Steinbeck, Vonnegut, Regina George. All great writers of their time that made an impact, especially that last one that went far beyond ink to stationery. I prefer the splat of a well-crafted mallet over the old leather-bound bestseller, but to each his own. Head on over to that famous site, sorry, excuse me, pardon me, Audible. And then scroll down to the secret hidden arrow 3/4 of the way down. That's where you can truly divulge in what the netherworld has to offer you. This version of the site has your fix in more bizarre assortments, such as books on poisons, possessions, practical magic, and anti-aging. So head on down to the netherworld Audible and use the code LOONEY for a percentage off your purchase. Yeah, I know I'll be doing so right after this to find out what Ozempic is all about. I mean, that there is just a wild product. Come on down.
Did he hear me? But
Oh, I think he did.
But it was definitely a lot of fun to revisit, and like I said, I have the original film again. I got to rewatch in 4K, and I'm probably gonna pick up the cartoon as well. Why not? Because it's physical media, DVD. It was a fun show as a kid. Love the theme song, and
Gotta collect them all.
gotta collect them all. Gotta catch them all. Beetlejuice.
So yeah, going back to my history with it. So Beetlejuice has meant a lot to me as a creative. I initially was terrified of Keaton's performance. When I was 5 years old, I remember it playing on TV, and my parents were hanging out at a friend's house, and I was in the living room and it was on, and I just remember hiding behind the couch because I was so terrified by everything that he was doing. I think it was the whole like introduction to him where they had to dig him up, and then he just like rises and floats down and starts harassing them, the Maitlands. And I was just like, what is happening? His head starts spinning. For a 5-year-old, that's pretty traumatizing stuff.
No, I get it. I mean, I was afraid of everything as a kid, so I'm surprised. I think I was a little bit older when I saw the first, because I knew the cartoon first.
Okay.
But I probably would have been in the same vein. I mean, I've said it before, but I used to be afraid of the silliest things in the world. I mean, one example is I told my buddy Anthony from Anthony's Animation Talk, hello, Mike. But hey, Anthony. But I mean, like Looney Tune related, the scene from Gold Rush days from Hardaway Dalton when the guy's making a soup and he drinks it. That grin used to creep me out as a kid. I used to stuff my head inside the couch, and my older brother would pause the VCR and trick me to look at it. So he's a jerk, but I can see why you're afraid of Beetlejuice. Me being afraid of a Merry Melody from the 30s is ridiculous, but he definitely has that ick factor to him, and you have the spinning head, or he's like, he's like,
oh, and the snake, which is phenomenal effect.
The sandworm,
stop motion. No, the stop motion Beetlejuice snake. Whenever he
that's
terrifies,
creepy.
He terrifies the family. I just vividly remember that, and then fast forward to college, and I love this movie. I'm rewatching it all the time. I actually did an essay on it. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the fact that Michael Keaton basically improv'd all of his lines, and they came up with this character on the spot. He basically went into wardrobe and put it all together, and came out with this wild, zany character that is in of his own right like a scary Looney Tune. So you're not far-fetched, to bring up that comparison. There's a really great YouTube documentary called by Disney Dan called The Evolution of Beetlejuice in Pop Culture. I highly recommend everyone checks that out because it does have footage of Beetlejuice with the Ghostbusters, with Looney Tunes, as they were touring the United States, which is so weird as ABC affiliate. That's where the Beetlejuice animated series was playing alongside Looney Tunes and many other cartoons. And they just kind of created this cavalcade, and then they toured it. Beetlejuice, the first ever appearance in this live action event, was wearing the striped suit, but with the purple shirt from the animated series. So it was already an amalgam. And I don't know, like kids were not scared of him, I guess. His head was terrifying. He had like this fake prosthetic head thing. I don't know. It was creepy to me to look back on this and be like, okay, wow, that is a choice. But as we get older, we appreciate the finer things, and these costume ideas and the way that things permeate pop culture. It's very interesting to look back on that. And Beetlejuice is one of these characters who, in all rights, is like a really grotesque perv. And we've just embraced him for that, and not canceled him at all. He's just great, and he just gets to do his thing. So much so that he is now in the latest Warner Brothers fighting game, Multiverses, and he's shown up in many things. There was a reference to him in Tiny Toons going back to the 90s.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
It's still time. Hope you're not squeamish. Well?
There was the episode of Teen Titans Go where they conjure Beetlejuice to help them save Halloween.
Is your Halloween ruined? Need help? Call the ghost with the most called Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice.
Hey there, folks. How are you? Good to see you.
It has gone on to create its own thing. Obviously, he has its own musical on Broadway, which did phenomenally well, and it's a incredible legacy of a character that you think is just a one-off, and then, you know, 2-3 decades later, he gets a sequel, and the sequel's fun too. Like, well, I can't think of another character that has ever gone through a a permeation or a meditation like this in our lifetime. You know, like, it's so fascinating to look at it in that respect.
I mean, when you think of Beetlejuice, I mean, within in the context of the musical and the films, like you said, he's a creep, he's a pervert, but my God, he's charming. Like there was, I think it was
And
IGN
funny.
and hilarious. The I think it was IGN that they had a interviews with the cast and asking him, "Is Beetlejuice a villain?" And like some of them were saying yes and whatever, and it's like he's not necessarily a villain. He's obviously the antagonist of the film,
Right.
the first film, and for parts of the second film. And he's only about himself, and he's self-serving, and obviously he's just still infatuated with Lydia after all these years. But you always know it's. I mean, it's kind of like in your personal life. Like you have a buddy of yours that that he or she doesn't always say the nicest things, and can be a bit of a jerk, and might say some things that are out of line, but they just are just oozing with either charm or charisma, and it kind of like softens them a bit. Like before going into the film, like my friend asked, he was like, "Do you know if they're going to tone down Beetlejuice?" And I said, "I heard, I read, I think an interview with Burton and Keaton. They said no, he's still the same scummy person that he was years ago." And it was just great to see that. I mean, obviously, we don't necessarily condone the things he does, but it's just funny to see that he doesn't change. He's still self-serving. He's still a creep, and he's just still out for himself. But that charisma and that hilarity just gets him by.
Absolutely. The thing now we're talking about the sequel. The thing that surprised me the most was the needle drops. You have such an eclectic soundtrack to this movie, and it is very different than the first film soundtrack because the first film was relegated to mainly Harry Belafonte songs, and now here we're integrating other hits or popular songs of other eras, and I thought that was really interesting. I guess the biggest surprise for me was hearing MacArthur Park in this, because for a second it took me out because I relegate that song in my mind to Jurassic Park because of the Weird Al parody. But now I like both. I like both of these songs, and now I have this visual dance number, dream sequence, if you will, around MacArthur Park that I cannot stop listening to. But yeah, like Tim Burton was smart in keeping the visual aesthetic that he did for the first film. My favorite visual gag is when we come up to the Dietz's house after Charles has passed, and it's got that shroud over it. Somebody thought of putting a black shroud over the house to commemorate the death of Charles Dietz. I thought that was really funny. And clearly the most loony moment was when Beetlejuice draws a bomb to get to the back entrance of the Netherworld. That is such a really great way of incorporating new lore into the Beetlejuice world, but staying true to the visual gags that came before. But yeah, like Michael Keaton is phenomenal. He's coming back and he's doing his thing. I don't know how much of his lines were scripted, but I know, like just the off glance that he gives. I know he breaks the fourth wall a couple of times, and, he's just having fun with it. And then Danny DeVito is there at the beginning in a really fun cameo. I feel like he's generating, some of those vibes of the Penguin with the ooze coming out of his mouth. I thought that was really fun. Monica Bellucci is beautiful beyond belief, and she's in this to give a foil to the entire plot. But yeah, like as you said, like it's really about Lydia Dietz and her story with Astrid. That mother-daughter relationship and Astrid falling for the bad guy who spoiler alert, is not who he says he is. But they did something really smart. They dressed them as the Maitlands in subtle ways. So he's wearing the stripes and she's wearing the flowery dress, and you think that that's going to be a new romance. You think that's going to be the thing you can lean on of like, oh, that's the the proxy for Adam and Barbara, but then that turns on its head and it's evil. I loved all of these things that built on each other. It's just a fun movie, and I highly recommend you go out and see it, because I don't think we're going to get another movie like this for a while, especially one that uses such bizarre techniques to tell the story. It kind of goes against script narrative or Western narrative and is kind of all over the place. But again, I highly recommend it. It's really enjoyable. Look for that flashback. The flashback scene is hysterical, and it's not in English. That's all I'll say. I don't want to give that away. But yeah, like it's just really fun, and I highly recommend everyone go check that movie out.
I'm looking at the clock, and let me see if I can say it. Okay, past midnight. Because what I was going to say is the needle drop that made me crack up the most. The second I heard like the first eensy weensy note, both my friend and I like started cracking up. Was the birthday boy as of September 16th? It is now September 17th. Richard Marx, Right Here Waiting. I love that song, and when I heard it, I started cracking up. I was like, "Oh God, it's one of my favorite '80s ballads," and just in the context of the film, like, as I say with Anthony, mwah, chef's kiss. It just and you were mentioned before with MacArthur Park. I was like, man, I'm like, I know this song. It sounds familiar, and I know the song, but I don't know it super well. And ever since watching the film, I've been listening to the original version from Richard Harris, and I'm like, man, it's such a groovy song. And now again, same thing. I'm thinking about the film and what's going on with that, that whole sequence. And as you were saying before with the flashback scene, I was like, oh, good. My opera training did come in handy, because some of this I mean, obviously this they had subtitles, but I understand some of what they're saying here. So I was like, yay, go me.
It was Italian, right?
Yeah, it was in Italian.
Yeah.
And when I was too, you mentioned with DeVito, I was watching him. I was like, I'm like, there has to be Danny DeVito. And then the reveal is like, yeah, my fellow Jersey boy, the legend, Danny DeVito himself.
Another crazy Warner Brothers connection here. Richard Harris, who obviously wrote and performed the original version of MacArthur Park, was also the first Dumbledore for the first two Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same guy. Like, whoa.
When I was looking it up, I was reading. Well, somebody else wrote it, Jimmy Webb, but Richard Harris was the first person to do it. Of course, I had to do my musical research. He wanted to give the song to the group The Fifth Dimension, up and away, my beautiful balloon. Those guys from the late '60s. And Richard Harris, he sang the first version, and then the film also uses the cover that Donna Summer did, the disco version. And I was looking, I was like, wait, Richard Harris? I'm like, the actor Richard Harris? I'm like, no. And then I was like, oh crap, I had no idea that he was a singer. I was like, that's Dumbledore. Like, I didn't know he was a singer back in the the 60s and 70s. Like,
same.
I thought that was such a cool connection. And something I wanted to bring up before I forget is, you were saying before, just Keaton, like how much of this was improv, and going back to the whole Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice connection. I mean, Beetlejuice is, Michael Keaton's performance in Beetlejuice just is like an improv masterclass. Makes me think of Bill Murray as Peter Venkman in the original Ghostbusters. That's another, masterclass, and it's right there in improv. And when you were talking about the tours, I never got to go, but Universal Studios in Florida, I only went once when I was in high school. And this was after they had the stage shows of like Beetlejuice with the Ghostbusters and La Di Da. And by the time I got there, it was already done and discontinued. It's just like a little tear, ran down my face because man, I love Ghostbusters and I like Beetlejuice, and I would have liked to see them both. And I've seen like archive archive footage of like people illegally filming, the shows back in the 90s. I mean, this is back in the day where you had to walk around with like a with the huge because my dad had one, like the huge camcorder you put on your shoulder. I'm like, man, can you make it a little bit more discreet? I mean, now in the days of smartphones and GoPros, you could do it, but I'm like, it's like someone really must have been falling asleep to not spot like this, obnoxious looking camcorder back in like 1992.
Hey, I'm thankful for those people
Oh
because
yeah,
without them, we
they're
wouldn't have that
amazing.
archival footage.
Yeah.
But this is so wild because Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice both had a movie this year, and I really wish Halloween Horror Nights on both coasts also had a Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters maze, or brought back that live show, because that would have been really fun to integrate both brands again. But I guess that's a licensing deal that they couldn't quite figure out. But I'm just thankful that we have this new reinvigoration for the character, and who knows what will come, if we'll get a new animated series or not. But shout out to the original voice actors in the animated series. I'm looking them up right now, and I wish I
I
had
think
them.
Allison Court was Lydia, if I'm not mistaken, and I hopefully I don't pronounce it correctly. Stephen Womet.
Stephen Womet and Allison Court. Yes.
Yep.
Kudos to them. And, my inner child is thankful for all of this crazy Beetlejuice content I had growing up. I don't know what my life would be without it. My
sorry
wife and
if I said his name wrong. Sorry, if I pronounce.
My wife and I actually we connected over Beetlejuice. I had the Adam costume for Halloween one day, and she had the Barbara costume, and unbeknownst to both of us, we both had those costumes ready to go for our first date night. So
oh
yeah,
that's so cute.
And our daughter is actually named after Lydia, so we have that connection as well. So this has been a joy to witness, to celebrate. If you follow us on Instagram, which you can over at This Means Podcast, you'll see a bunch of Beetlejuice content from me. I just did a fan art Friday of just strictly Beetlejuice artwork. Phenomenal work across the board from everybody, and it's still being pumped out. Like, people are still being inspired by Tim Burton's work, by Keaton's work, and by this character. So definitely go check it out. Manny, where can people find you online?
So once again, I'm Emmanuel Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor. You can find me on pretty much most social media at the Toonie Tenor, TheTooneyTenor. And I'm a musician. I'm a classically trained musician. I sing all different types of stuff. And I'm also a huge nerd, as I like to say in Anthony's podcasts, on various things. I mean, some days I could be posting about this or that, something pop culture related. I enjoy, obviously, stuff with music, and my performances. Hopefully, the more I get, the more I'll post about those. But yeah, plenty of Looney Tune content. I mean, obviously, I love Looney Tunes. I love Ghostbusters, other things, Simpsons, whatnot. And just feel free to check it out. I have clips of myself doing music stuff of me doing geek stuff. And I'm also a big contributor on Anthony's Animation Talk. He's doing every single Looney Tune and Merry Melody short in order. He's currently in 1954. And I've
what a
appeared on.
task.
Oh my God, I don't know how he does it. And he's hopping mad, to be doing it. That's a kangaroo joke. And I've appeared on about 100 of his shorts or his commentaries, and I've also been working on the Merry Melodies from the 30s in my little segment called Manny's Music Time, where I fuse my love of these cartoons with my musical training, and I give people like a little music history, musicology lesson while you're watching, a Frisch Freleng short from 1935 or whatever it may be. So yeah, check it out. Follow, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever the heck they call it, Threads, all that, and follow me and give me some love, and obviously give Jonathan all the love with just, I mean, and give love to the love, that you bring for these, these cartoons, because I mean, obviously Looney Tunes means so much to you and it means so much to me. As I always tell people, like, obviously there's, I love, Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles and whatnot, but the thing that made me geek out over the Ghostbusters and Turtles, because I mean, I grew up with all this stuff, obviously, I grew up in the 90s watching these things, but me like wanting to research and learn as much as I can and interact with the community, the one that started it all was me discovering the early history of Looney Tunes 20 something years ago. And that was the starting point. And obviously, I wouldn't be a musician without Looney Tunes. So, thanks a lot, Carl Stalling, for that.
And Milt Franklin.
And
Absolutely.
Milt Franklin.
No,
and
I mean,
Mel Blanc and the rest of the gang.
The rest of them, they're, indelible to our childhood, but also to bringing joy to our lives and, ways that they could never have imagined. Manny, again, thank you so much. And a huge shout out to guest vocal artist Christopher Swindle, who provided the voice of Beetlejuice in this episode. You can find him in Multiverses and Lego Dimensions as Beetlejuice. And check out his Instagram and Twitter at Swindle Topher. He's also a phenomenal voice artist on his own right. He's been in so many projects: Owl House, Monsters at Work, Kung Fu Panda, Transformers, Kingdom Hearts 3. He's everywhere. So go check him out. And again, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow us to stay up on everything going on in the world of Looney Tunes. And as always, that's not all, folks.
Well, that's the show. I'm more into true crime myself. It amazes me what some people can get away with. You know what I mean? I'm just a little jelly. Oh, yeah, save that guy for later. See ya, meanies! You're so mean. Especially you. Kiss your mom with that mouth? I'm gonna go kiss your mom with that mouth.